Does it count if it's like, is it swords and knives or sharp edges? In which case, broken glass can be considered Halifax.
See, I was thinking paper cuts. God Country by Donny Cates.
This is God country. Yes.
Not how the song goes, but all right.
Are you sure?
It's because the song is God's Country with an apostrophe S. This is God Country.
Gotcha. Okay.
Without an apostrophe S.
Alright, gotcha. Right. God Country. The words were done by Donny Cates. The art by Jeff Shaw. The color by Jason Wordy. Letters and design by John J. Hill. And variant covers done by Gerardo Zaffino. Yeah. And so this story is about a family, and the story was about a family whose the grandfather of the husband of family got this sword and became a really powerful person, pretty much indestructible.
I mean, as the story says, it's not really a story about a sword. The story is about the fact this man, he's probably I would consider the patriarch of the family, the grandfather. Mm-hmm. He's deteriorating in health. He's aggressive. He's got Alzheimer's. He can't remember who his son is half the time. And then this magic sword is introduced.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes his Alzheimer's go away. Yay!
Which is
only when he's
convenient.
Yes.
Normally, I wouldn't consider swords to be healing, but it's nice that it healed him just enough to not be an Alzheimer-ridden old man.
Yes, but not. It didn't just do that. It also made him pretty invincible.
I think it mostly at least physically just reverted him to something 20 years ago, and then also reverted his mind, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they say the sword, I can't remember the sword's name at the moment.
Valifax.
They compare it, okay, Valifax. But they pretty much say it is the sword that is all swords. So every sword you can think of that exists, I guess, is this sword. So it has all those powers.
Every sword ever written about, every sword ever sung about, every knife in your cabinet or whatever, a cupboard, is Valifax.
Yeah. That's a pretty sharp and dull sword.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's my question.
It contains multitudes.
Does it count if it's is it swords and knives or sharp edges? In which case, broken glass can be considered Valifax.
See, I was thinking paper cuts, but...
I mean, I don't think it super matters, does it? Because it'll just make it sharper. I think the part that really matters is all the different magical, weird powers it apparently can have.
What about that YouTube guy who makes knives out of things that knives aren't made out of? Is that also Valifax?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Wait, no, Valifax is not the person, it's the things.
Okay, but then when does it become... This is basically the Toy Story 4 question about when Sporky becomes a toy. When does...
Okay.
If you just call something a sword, is it Valifax?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I mean, along the same lines, there's cursed swords. Is there any curses on this sword?
Would that just cancel out with the, holy swords, though?
Just a bunch of canceling it out. That's why it only has a few powers that are shown in the book.
I mean, yeah, a few, yes, but
they're very good.
Yeah,
but...
pretty much
they're
solve
good
all
ones.
the world's problems pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, I think that it's more... Okay, so
Oh, you go.
This is what I'm thinking. Basically, so... Say the name of the sword again, or the god of... The sword of...
Yeah, that's the sword.
Valifax, yeah. So like Valifax is in whatever blade is used for like rightful, basically either like rightful defense or rightful attack,
Ah, so glass is
Like
included.
so it could be
Yeah, if you're using the glass to defend
because you
yourself
could have a glass sword.
somehow.
You tape a handle to it,
Mhm.
maybe.
Yeah.
Just broken glass attached to a stick.
And then I think that what was the other thing that we were considering though before that?
Paper cuts?
Or after that?
If paper cuts were also.
No.
The things.
Oh no, I mean as far as curses and stuff, I think that yeah, I think that an individual object can be cursed, but it's about the spirit of Volifax that's like basically it helps, like, I don't know, it gives slight power to the user in battle, but it doesn't mean that he himself is cursed because that object is cursed, which I know that even in the book it goes as far as to say I'm a blade, not a he, but sometimes pronouns are difficult.
That's why you just go with it.
For inanimate objects.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I was going to say is at one point he's like, oh, I can only heal you so much. So obviously the sword has healing powers. So it has good powers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would consider curses bad powers. Like I make fire come out of your feet every time you try to walk.
That seems specific. Shawinta, do you have to tell us something?
I just feel like, I guess the sword can tell the difference. It's like, oh, this is good versus this is bad. It gets all the good.
Okay. So go back to the story. So the family, because this book is about the family, we have Emmett Quinlan is the grandfather, guy who wields the sword. We have Roy Quinlan, who is the son of Emmett. Janie Quinlan, who is Roy's wife, and Dina Quinlan, who is Roy's daughter. That is the family. Yeah. And reading this, I was kind of surprised because I didn't expect the grandfather to become uber powerful. I was like, oh, okay, so that's new. But yeah. So basically, a tornado comes into town, starts bringing what I thought was like a ghost and hellhounds. Not quite sure about hellhounds. But yeah, he grabbed the sword and he just like completely eviscerated the ghost. And then the first issue ends with them introducing this god who's like hovering over Earth, wanting to get Valifax back. And then yeah, or
I was gonna say, because it's a short story, it's self-contained in these 6 issues. It's really clear how every single scene mirrors a scene that happens later, as in terms of like, so the beginning being the family is distraught because once again Emmett, the grandfather, has gotten into trouble with the police. He's aggressive. He's attacked people, and it's only getting worse. And they're like, "Oh, you should put him in a home." And the son is very clearly like, no, he needs me, so I need to stay with him. Even when the mother and Dina, his daughter, are like going to leave because it's dangerous, and like the grandfather doesn't even recognize them, really.
Yeah.
And then, that's very clearly mirrored later. But, the tornado comes, and so Emmett saves his son, and the daughter and the mother come back because of the tornado. He saves them from that demon.
Yeah.
I guess I can't talk about it since the issue's later, but yeah, the scenes that are mirror.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I see what you're talking about with that. Also, yeah, as far as like hellhounds, you mentioned that, Talon, and I think that those were just stray dogs that, like, basically got aggressive, but then they ran away.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, they were probably street dogs, and they were scared by the tornado. So the dude was like, "Oh crap, the street dogs are coming towards me at a fast pace," and they're running past him, a sign of something bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. I see that now.
But yeah, but also, so let me see if I can find it. I think this is in the second issue. There is, let me see if I can find it. There's a reference that, like, it's a reference to Jack Kirby, and I think that this book references Jack Kirby a lot. Okay, actually, it might be a lot later. Yeah, okay, it's an issue. It's at the beginning of issue 3, but yeah, it's like a couple of pages in. There's a scene where Roy is talking to Janie, and they're inside the family house, and above the small little TV is a poster of the New Gods from DC Comics.
Oh, I didn't catch that when I read through it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big picture of Darkseid, basically. And so yeah, I've noticed, like, basically, like, all of the gods in this seem like pretty, and also, like, he even uses like the Kirby dots occasionally. So yeah, this is very Kirby dots. Yeah, it's like cosmic energy shown in kind of dot form.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll point it out when we get to that part of the story. But yeah, so that was just really interesting that there's a lot of influence in from Jack Kirby's Fourth World, which is, like, like I said, Darkseid, Apocalypse, Miracle Man, and all of the new gods.
Gotcha. Okay. I hadn't realized that was a thing, Jack Kirby's Fourth World. And so when when I was watching Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, the credits ended with Fourth World. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. Because I thought it was the Source Wall, like that story. Or I guess, to be more specific,
yeah,
Dark Knight's Metal. I thought it was a reference to that.
Oh. No, yeah, it's basically, since Darkseid and all of the new gods were created back in, like, I think the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, that sounds. I think it's 70s.
That's
but
what that's.
I could be wrong.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The only like bit of trivia that I know is that Darkseid was first introduced in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. So
that's right. Yeah, because that was also something that Jack Kirby did, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, he just created his Fourth World throughout, like, all of the DC series that he was, like, working on. So, like, he never had, like, he just slipped them in there, and then eventually they were like, okay, you can do it, and then it was way easier to pull the trigger on, like, making a whole book about it, because it was already in the other series that he was working on.
Gotcha.
But anyway, this has been, like, a longer Jack Kirby tangent than I thought.
All right. So we get a look at the god that wants the sword back, and my first thought was Ares, and I wasn't that off.
Yeah, he looks vaguely like
Yeah,
Ares, I guess.
Mm.
He's got the kind of like helmet with a
thinking of-
mohawk that like
The
Ares
kilt?
is usually depicted with.
I'm
It's
thinking of,
like
the kilt.
it's not specifically a kilt, but it's
Mhm.
like that kind of like waist armor that does have some like
Oh, the Roman armor.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
vaguely Roman, yes. I don't know what you
And-
call that,
And then it was also
but it's
the
definitely not a
famous-
kilt, I can tell you that.
It was also the Magneto helmet that gave it away.
Yeah, kind of,
Mm.
but it's not I know we've looked this up like what Magneto helmet is made out of, but it's not made out of that. Whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, so issue 2.
But that style.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying that style.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So issue 2
But yeah,
is
issue 2.
is a right after he gets the sword, the god comes down from the sky and is like, "All right, I'm here to get this sword back because you stole it, or at least he believed he stole it." And then the Valofax speaks and says, "No, you act in a way that is worthy of your title, like, man up or something." And then Emmett was like, "See, ha!" And Valofax was like, "No, hey, you too. You also straighten up." So, so it's relayed to us that Valofax chooses who can wield him.
It's kind of a
And-
Mjolnir situation where it's like whoever is worthy, except also it gets to choose because like the
yes.
Valofax has a consciousness, even though it's stuck in the sword.
Yeah. And so,
Well, I wouldn't say he's stuck in the sword.
I
He
mean,
is the sword.
he never like
Just-
personifies himself outside of the sword, despite seemingly wanting agency outside of just being a
Well-
sword.
well, no, he wanted the agency from the person that created him.
Which would be easier if he weren't just a sword.
But he did not
But
want
that's
to
what
be a
he
sword.
is.
All right.
I guess, I think that, he just, it gets more and more complicated as we use the wrong pronoun. It is a sword. It is the god of swords. And it is totally okay with being a sword. It just wants to be able to choose how it's a sword and how it gets used.
Mhm. Yeah. So
yeah.
the god's name is Aristus. Aristus?
Yeah, I'd say Aristus. God of
Yeah, Aristus,
war,
yeah.
blood, and honor.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, the god of blood. What? That's ridiculous.
But yeah, he also gives this is I think our first introduction to the greater world of gods outside of Valofax, because he also says he's the heir to the throne of always, firstborn son of Atum, who is eternal lord and
I
high
read it like
father
autumn.
to some thousand realms. So yeah, I never got a super great idea on how to pronounce that because there's what I believe is known as an umlaut over the U. So
okay.
I don't know how that's not pronounced.
You say Ulau?
Umlaut.
Umlau. Okay.
It's yeah.
That's right. I forgot about those, but I think that means that the vowel that is the vowel that has it on it is said as a hard sound, so it would be atum, I guess.
Because he is a tomb.
Because it's
That's a
like
funny little play
the
on
thing that I
words.
always remember. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Aristus comes and Halifax basically tells him, or he realizes that Halifax chose to be there, and so he and Emmett decided to take a walk. And Emmett was saying, I don't want to give up this sword because, or well, no, he's saying I don't want the sword, but I want to be able to remember my family. Okay? And Aristus was like, yeah, if you give up the sword, you're gonna go back to the way you were. Sorry, there's not really anything I can do about it. And then Emmett was like, okay, fine, then I'm keeping the sword. And Aristus responds with saying, okay, your choice, but I'm afraid the next time we meet, we will not be allies. He starts to go off, and then, go away. And then he turns around and he's like, hey, also, you need to give me like your intentions, declaration of intent. And he's like, all right, yeah, I got a message for you. So then he goes to his father, whose Atum. Aristus' father is Atum. How do they describe him? The High Father and God of the Kingdom of Always.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Long, kind of drawn out title that basically amounts to kind of nothing, but.
Right. Yep. Oh, King of 1,000 Realms, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, yeah. So he goes to his father and he's like, all right, got a message. This is kind of like a declaration of war in their language, but his language or his statement is come and get it. And then,
which is, yeah, we haven't mentioned it yet, but this story takes place in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that specifically is a thing about the Alamo, because like a little bit of Texas history, specifically about the Alamo. The Alamo had this cannon, and the Mexican government didn't want them to have the cannon. So the people who were at the Alamo said, come and take it. And then they did, and everybody died.
Oh.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
where
then.
Remember the Alamo comes from. Because you gotta remember the Alamo.
See, I always learned about that in like history classes and then immediately forgot. Probably because it wasn't explained very interestingly. It was just all like, politics and the Spanish government and Texas
something,
government.
something Mexico, something Texas, and then America happened.
Them, and then they came over and kicked our asses for some reason.
Yeah, the history of the Alamo is technically very interesting, but because it's so steeped in like weird Texan lore, it becomes like way less interesting.
I should say, I think my favorite part of the issue, of course, is when he's with what's the god's name again? But Emmett's with the god, and they're talking in another area away from the family so they can talk more plainly. And the god's like, oh my god, it's so beautiful here. What do you call this region? He's like, it's Texas. He's like, so you are from the realm of Texas.
Yes.
Is Donny Cates from
wish I
Texas?
could remember what that's. I don't know for sure, but I think he is from the South.
Because like there's
general.
I'm trying to build a through line in my head of like different I don't want to say fetishizations of like Texas, but like Preacher has a little bit of that, but that's from a bunch of like writers who are not American at all. And so
it does say he was
like,
born in Texas.
It's well then I guess that kind of explains it. It's like okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think he lives in Austin.
Okay, that explains it a little more.
Cuz yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know that he was like in charge of the Absolute Carnage story, but
I think that also took place in Texas. Oh no, it was
Did it?
Texas or New Mexico. It was like a little town in one of those.
Because I'm just trying to remember. Like, I think there was Scarlet Spider. The series. I don't know
was
if
in Texas.
That, but
he was in Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Donny Cates wrote that or not though. But now I'm like, maybe. All of this, there's enough of a connection possibly. But anyway, so yeah, this guy likes him some Texas. He lives there.
Yeah, if we didn't tell you now, you'd understand by the end of this book that he was from Texas or had an obscure, weird fascination with Texas.
I mean, isn't one of the first things Emmett does after, I don't remember when he does exactly, after talking with God or before, where he's like, they're like, well, we gotta leave now. His family's like, we're safe, but for how long? And he's like, no, I'm not leaving. This is my home. And there's like, it's rubble. And he's like, not anymore, and rebuilds it with the sword. And as the granddaughter says, well, he rebuilt it, but why is it still broken? It's just such a rundown house.
Yeah, see, that's an interesting thing for me because when I got to that part of the story, I imagined that it was like, oh, okay, so part of like, at least like that part of the sword's powers was like basically it can only do as much as his memory could, like, remember how the house was. So he never remembered it as, the door working, but then that wasn't really expanded on. So I'm kind of like, or maybe not. Maybe that's just how he rebuilt it. I don't know.
See, that's the thing. Did the sword rebuild it for him based on his memory, or is the sword just like giving him some telekinesis powers and he was like hammering away within a few seconds, very fast, but
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That was a confusing part for me by the end. I was like, aha, I know how this works, and I was like, nah, they didn't give me any indication.
I think most of the things in this story aren't meant to be explained. It's more for the vehicle of the main thing, family.
Right. Yeah. Give me more lore to chew on.
So the writer of Scarlet Spider is Christopher Yost, but he was born in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, okay. Whatever. I just thought because he wrote Carnage, but yeah. So then, like, basically after that whole like the talk that they have, then there's like a very like peaceful moment. It's like everybody's recovered from like the tornado and then the god like coming to attack and stuff, and it's like okay. Now we'll look at like bugs and stuff and lightning bugs.
I mean, they're as happy as you can be in a house in the middle of nowhere, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, but they choose to live that way with a house in the middle of nowhere. They'd be unhappy if they had neighbors.
Yeah.
Also, I just noticed that on the page, it's like basically the page where Volifax like starts talking to the granddaughter, there's a giant spider on top of the roof of the house that I didn't notice. Like
Page before I was talking to.
on
I see.
playbooks, it's page 64. Yeah, it's like I'm like, whoa, like it
I don't
kind
think
of even
it's-
seemed.
I don't think it's actually a giant spider. I think it's just like zoomed in.
Perspective.
But no, because it's like if you look at the whole page, it's one image, you know, that's segmented into 3 different panels.
Yeah, okay, but
But
just
it-
like imagine it in motion. They just kind of like it's just like a pull out while the dialogue is going on.
Okay.
I don't think it's a
maybe I
giant
can believe
spider.
that. I thought that was a giant demon spider.
I mean, it could be a demon spider.
Yeah, it could be, but if
Yeah.
it was, then why didn't they mention it at all later?
Yeah,
Because
okay.
that was
I
just
thought it was
hinting
just
at.
I'm unhappy when I see regular spiders. I can't imagine being around a demon spider.
That reminds me of that. I've never seen it, but like the title of that movie, that's one big spider. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm okay. Anyway, moving
Is it
on.
about spiders?
Hmm?
Is it about spiders?
Giant spiders.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a movie about giant spiders.
Really,
Not
all
King
in the
Kong.
title there.
The-
Not about. Oh,
The
Peter
ti-
Jackson's King Kong with the giant bugs.
Yeah. No, the title of the movie is something along the lines of "That's one big spider."
I guess I haven't seen that one. I've seen like the title Arachnophobia, but
Oh, okay.
which does feature several very large spiders.
The spiders towards the end, which are just like puppet spiders, very obviously.
Still don't like it. Too many legs, too many eyes. Don't like it.
Gotcha.
Anyway, the spider that was in one panel.
Yes,
didn't
has
do
drawn
anything.
this much controversy.